Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the BCA-SCAL Restart webinar, Good Practices and Common Pitfalls of COVID-Safe Measures for Construction Projects. My name is Hui Wen from BCA. We are very grateful to have the Singapore Contractors Association Limited SCAL in joining us today to organize this live webinar. With more projects approved for restart, construction activities are resuming at a faster pace. This webinar will share with you, the builders community, on observable good practices and workable solutions for safe management measures at work sites. Before we start, please note that as participants, you are on mute setting. Should you have any questions about the discussion topics, you may do so by clicking the Q&A button on the screen to type in your queries. When we get to the Q&A session at the end of this webinar, we will also be activating the raise hand function to take live questions from the audience. Should you wish to answer questions verbally at that time, to click the raise hand icon. Do also note that when the session ends, you will be directed to access an evaluation form after you have exited the webinar. Once submitted, you will be able to download the speaker's presentation materials via the website as shown. Today, we are pleased to have Engineer Clement Singh, Group Director, Building Plan and Management, Lead Audit and Inspection, Safe WorkSite BCA, and Mr. Desmond Hill, Council Member, Past President of SCAL, to co-chair the session. Together with them from BCA, we have Engineer Punithan, Director, Building Plan and Policies Department, Engineer Dr. Chan, Deputy Director, Bridges and Structural Steel Department, Engineer Vivian Fu, Deputy Director, Strategic Engineering, Project Department, Mr. Sebastian Lim, Senior Manager, Strategic Resources Department, and Mr. Abner Wee, Executive Manager, Green Building Policy Department of BCA. Without ado, let us invite our webinar co-chairs to deliver their welcome remarks. Engineer Clement and Mr. Hill, please.
Okay, hello everyone. Good afternoon, and happy to see so many of you joining us. So as we know, MOM has also recently announced that the DOMs are in the final stages of clearing sometime in mid-August. So we should all be prepared to get our project started. And as of now, BCA has approved some 3,000 or so projects, with only about half or so being able to start work. So I think this sharing session will be timely. I'm sure you have lots of burning questions, so we hope we can address as much of it in this session. Maybe Desmond would like to say a few words.
Sure. Thank you, Clement. Good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to this joint webinar between BCA and SCAL. I think we've had previous joint webinars before, prior to the restart of works, and now that basically restarting of works is actually, the process is already ongoing. We thought that it will be timely to share with you, okay, the steps and measures that contractors have taken, okay, at their work site. So in today's webinar, we have two very experienced contractors. Team Bill will be presenting on their project, which is basically a building project, and Co-Brothers will be presenting on a civil work, which is related to the MRT project. So you'll find that while the principle on Safe Work Site or SMM is basically the same, but because of the peculiarity of the nature of construction and building and civil works, they are a little bit different. So today you will have two companies to share what they have put in place in terms of their project restart and the measures they have taken to basically ensure that they have a safe work site and that work can still continue. So I wish you a fruitful afternoon, and of course at the end of it, we hope to take your queries, and then hopefully we will be able to answer some of your queries. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Clement and Mr. Hill. First up, we have Mr. Goh Tiam Lai, Deputy Director, Quality and Certification Department, BCA, who will be sharing on the findings and good practices observed during audit and inspection on project sites, supply works premises. Mr. Goh, over to you, please.
Hi, good afternoon to all. Hi, I'm Tiam Lai, and I'll be sharing with you the key findings and good practices observed from BCA's audit and inspection carried out at the work sites and supply work premises over the last 2 months. Sorry, I think the slides is it's not working. Okay. This is the outline of my presentation. Now, BCA has to date approved close to 3,000 work sites and supply work premises for restart. To ensure restart at work sites are carried out in a sustained and effective COVID-safe manner, all construction projects, supply work premises need to comply with the 3 COVID-safe restart criteria as shown, namely COVID-safe workforce, COVID-safe worker accommodation and transportation, and COVID-safe worksite. As the BE sector restarts, we are reminded of the COVID risk posed by the workers' accommodation worksite arrangement amongst various project parties. What happened at Project Glory is a case in point. At that time, when it became the largest construction site cluster, it was linked to 6 dormitories. Now, at this point of time, there is no vaccine or medicine for COVID, unfortunately. The only real protection is to implement safe management measures, SMM in short, and to contain any spread quickly when it happens. How well SMM are observed will be key to avoiding COVID outbreaks at work sites. Now, BCA has set up an audit and inspection team to check on effective implementation of the new measures at work sites, supply work premises, and to learn and share good practices quickly. The key objectives are ensuring safe access, basically allowing only healthy and approved workers to work at site, achieving safe distancing by enforcing safe distancing, segregation and cohorting measures at work site, and providing containment by ensuring that COVID plus and quarantine workers are isolated swiftly. The builder and his subcontractors and workers play the most crucial role in keeping their worksite COVID-free. Now, the key things for project parties to look out for are implementing a robust entry control system by implementing safe entry NRIC version, only allowing approved workers to enter the site, and ensuring that subcontractors and visitors do not mix with workers on site. They should also appoint adequate SMO and SDO to ensure the SMMs are adhered to on site. Proper segregations of teams, work zones, and having staggered lunch and breaks for different teams of workers to prevent mixing at communal facilities, especially canteen, rest areas, which are hotspots for spread of virus. Providing prepacked meals to the workers so that they don't share the meals, and to turn on Trace Together apps for traceability in the event of a COVID plus outbreak. Establishing a C+ response plans which covers basically the following steps: cordoning off affected zones, isolating the workers, clean and disinfecting the affected zones, and informing relevant authorities. In another more recent case, there was an outbreak caused by mixing of workers across work zones, common facilities, company transportations, and workers' residence. 6 COVID cases were first confirmed among an 8-man team working in the middle work zones of the project site. This later led to 356 close contact workers to be quarantined. Now, investigation shows that the main causes of the outbreak were workers from different work zones and shared common lunch and rest areas. Workers across the 3 work zones took the same company transportation to workers' residence, and workers from different work zones shared common residence and have social interaction. The outbreak has a great impact on the project. MOH subsequently served stop work order. The entire work site was closed and has to carry out thorough disinfection. The entire block of workers' residence was also locked down, with 77 workers conveyed in government quarantine facilities and 144 quarantined in situ. Now, the key lessons learned from this project are: firstly, builders should cohort workers according to work zones. There should not be any mixing of different cohorts during transportation and in places of residence to prevent cross-infection. Builders should segregate workers from different work zones and stagger the use of common lunch and rest areas. Now I'll share on BCA's key audit findings from inspections carried out at work sites and supply work premises over the last 2 months. So far, we have inspected more than 1,400 project sites, with most of them being smaller projects. The top non-compliances observed are as seen in this slide. Mismatch in entry records with BCA's approved whitelist, sites not installing the Safe Entry NRAC version. There are missing safe management measures monitoring plan on site, inadequate number of safe management officers and safe distancing officers found on site. Sites are not providing meals in individually prepped form, and there are no isolated sick bays provided on site. I will cover these non-compliances in more details in my subsequent slides. Now on mismatch in sites entry records with BCA's approved whitelist, the main reasons are SMO did not realize that workers were rejected. Builders just submitted the updated personnel list to BCA, but hasn't been approved. Or builders added manpower to site to cope with the workers' shortfall, but did not actually submit the new list to BCA. Builders submitted the new manpower to BCA, but did not include the previous approved list of personnel. SMO did not know that they themselves and the essential workers, Singaporeans, PRs, subcons have to be included in the list. Now, builders and SMO must not deploy non-approved workers or personnel at the site until they are approved by BCA to work at the site. Builders will receive this email when their restart application is approved. They are also guided to update BCA on the project schedule every 3 months, or if there are changes to their manpower deployment or place of accommodations of their approved site personnel. There are the respective links as highlighted in this slide. The approval email will also list down personnel not permitted to work at the site, with reasons as shown for builders to follow up. Only approved personnel are allowed to work on site. Now, for changes to manpower deployment or places of accommodation workers permitted to work at the project site, builders can resubmit the revised documents via applications to restart construction works and supply work through this link. Once inside, you should select modification for previously approved applications under submission type and quote the previous approved application number. Now remember to include the previous list of approved personnel when updating on the new additions in your submission. Otherwise, the new approved whitelist will only have the new submission. Another key findings is sites are actually using safe entry systems to manage personnel visitors entering the site, but it is not the safe entry NRIC version, which is linked to MOM's access code, showing is red or green and safe for the workers to enter the site. You will need to enable the restriction at CMP, which is short for Construction Marine Process. WORKSITE icon as shown below before the scanner can show the access code, green or red of personnel visitors entering the site. Project should not allow any personnel visitors with access code red to enter the site. Or BCA will take actions against unauthorized entry. Another key finding is the absence of SMM monitoring plan, which is meant to help the SMO or SDO track compliance of safe management measures implemented on site. SMM monitoring plan should cover the following. You should have a segregation plan which shows the different work zones for different teams of workers. And it is not applicable for small sites if the site is only using one team of worker. We should have a cohorting plan for workers. That is providing dedicated accommodations for workers from different teams to prevent mixing. We should have a control and management plan for C+ and suspected cases. A site communication plan to communicate SMM requirements to workers. Example will be briefing on SMM to site personnel and workers on site. System to track non-compliances issues pertaining to SMM to ensure that they are rectified without further delay. And system to prevent or deter SMM breaches, example, not wearing masks, not practicing safe distancing, sharing of meals, etc. Now, in the SMM monitoring plan, builders should establish an evacuation plan for suspected COVID cases, which covers the following. Builders to provide adequate sick bay for timely segregation of suspected cases. Builders to convey workers to clinic as soon as possible. And any employee who is feeling unwell or showing symptoms of illness to report to his employer. To leave the work site and consult a doctor immediately, even if the symptoms is mild. Our builders must track and record these cases as part of the safe management measures. There should also be a follow-up plan for confirmed C+ cases, which addresses the following. SMO to immediately vacate and cordon off the immediate section of the workplace premises where the confirmed cases work. The team that the confirmed worker belongs to should be put into isolation. Builder to carry out a thorough cleaning and disinfect the entire site in accordance with NEA guidelines. And last but not least, builder to inform BCA of the confirmed cases immediately. Now, another key finding is inadequate number of SMO and SDO provided on site. Safety officers, environmental control officers, safety supervisors or engineer can double up as a SMO as long as they are registered with BCA in the restart applications. Now, SMO and SDO must be present on site at all times when work are being carried out. If for some reasons, if the SMO and SDO happens to be on MC or leave, there must be another SMO or SDO on site to cover him or her. Another key finding is the cooking of meals at site, mainly at sites with construction temporary quarters or temporary living quarters. Now, cooking is not allowed on site to ensure workers do not share meals, which increases the risk of contamination and spread of virus. The last key findings is the non-provision of a fully enclosed sick bay for the isolation of suspected COVID personnel from the healthy workers. Here are two examples of improper sick bays which do not serve the intent of isolating suspected C+ cases that we found during our audit. In addition, sites should install the SG WorkPass apps and use it to check the access code of workers. You can tap on the access code color bar to find out why it is red. The reasons that it turns red will actually be shown, as you can see from the slide. Whether they are not approved to start work or whether the worker is in fact served stay-home orders, or simply because the place of stay is not cleared by MOM. Now, the site should only allow workers whose access code is green to work. And all site personnel should install the latest Trace Together apps in their mobile devices, which will facilitate traceability in the event of a COVID+ case. Now, the Bluetooth has to be switched on at all times for TT to work. I will now share on the good practices that we observe from our audits and inspections. This slide shows some of the good practices observed during our site inspections. As you can see, segregated entrance exits for different teams to prevent mixing, implementation of clear, safe distancing measures and markings at common lunch rest areas, clear display of zoning plans and who are the SMO and SDO, sites using digital scanning devices to track temperatures of site personnel, conduct a briefing on SMMs to workers prior to start of work, providing individually prepared meals to reduce the risk of contaminations. Other good practices observed during site inspections include having staggered work hours, rest breaks to prevent mixing, SMO using smart devices to track compliance on SMM, site install BCA feedback poster for whistleblower to report on SMM non-compliances, clear display of work zones to prevent mixing, sites using safe entry NRC to track entry of site personnel, providing visual identifiers such as colored armbands and wristbands to prevent mixing. Next, I'll share on some common non-compliances observed at sites. Now, here are some images of non-compliances found during our site inspections, which are areas for improvements. Here you can see workers blatantly not wearing masks, allowing workers with access code red to enter the site. Another example is providing improper sick bay, which will not serve the intent of isolating COVID+ or suspected cases. And cooking in a TLQ, which greatly increases the risk of contaminations when workers share food. BCA will take enforcement actions against work sites that do not conform to SMM requirements. Okay, with that, I've come to an end of my sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goh. Next, Mr. Gopal Kim, Executive Director, Kerr Brothers Group, will be presenting one of their projects, construction of curtain fiber tunnels at Marina Bay Area for Circle Line 6, on their project planning and implementation of effective safe management measures on site. Mr. Goh, please.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon to all. Word of thanks also to BCA and SCAL for this sharing session. And we hope that all of us will walk away with something useful at the end of this webinar. I can't control it. Okay. All right, sharing on planning and execution of effective SMM on C886 project site. A little bit on the project info and what guided us in our planning, the planned activities for each phase that we are doing, and of course the safe management plan on worksite, workforce, safe accommodation and transport, safe transportation, and the challenges ahead. A background of the project, C886, construction of covered tunnel at Marina Bay area for Circle Line 6. Our client is Land Transport Authority. Location is at Marina Bay area. Contract sum is 225 million. And contract period is up to 30th April 2025. Now the scope of work involves tunnel, 832 meters, one escape building, ERSS system, diaphragm wall, DSMs, alternative strut and excavation, and alternative partial top down that we are doing. And of course, the others are the obstruction removal, traffic diversion, decking, utilities, etc. Now the project location, the turnback tunnel and the main tunnel on here. The prominent landmarks, you can see Marina Bay Fire Station on the left, Singapore Conference Hall nearby also. Now the scope of works, what we are doing, diaphragm wall, the main tunnel, the turnback tunnel here, and the main tunnel here. Diaphragm wall of about 2.2 kilometers, excavation 244,000 meter cube. We have struts, RC works, underground obstruction removal forms quite a portion of the scope of works. Now our planning guide, what did we do? With the COVID pandemic in the background, now what we did was we started off with a small step. We wanted to put a foot into the door first. Pre-COVID workforce, we had 480 packs. Current approval, about 150, 30% of the original. Now, understanding the situation and the various government advisories, right? We need to negotiate our way forward. We need to understand how to move, how to adapt and to the new normal. So we had a lot of guidance from client, LTA, and we pre-consulted with BCA for 2 weeks before submission. Currently, we restarted, and now we are applying to increase our workforce. Now we have done our planning in such a way that we, like I said, we started off in phase 1 in a small step. All right, we only had 2 teams of D-wall construction going on out of about 5 teams on site, soil disposal, rebar fabrication. And the plan, we use the workers from our GSF as well as those workers from TLQ. So it's a very small force. This is currently what we are doing now, the current stage. Now moving on to the phase 2, which is what we are trying to apply now to increase our workforce. We plan to have a CTQ on site with workers from approved dormitories. Now, if you can see our D-wall construction, we are trying to increase with 1 more team from our subcontractors, trying to get workers in to increase our activities for ground improvement, steel work, and increase the workforce of the rebar and KKL's soil disposal. And in phase 3, we plan to set up a TOLQ plus workers from the approved dormitory. With this, we increase our activities again, more activities on site with more workers, increase more teams on the D-wall again, and hopefully hopefully I say we can get back to the pre-COVID level in phase 3 of our works. Now, all these workers from the approved dormitory, I think we should be aware that we need to discuss with the dorm operators also to cohort our workers or our subcontractors' workers into the various teams so that they can be allowed to work. Now, for safe accommodation, like I said, we provided TLQ for first phase. Capacity is about 33. Phase 2, we have CTQ. Capacity is 95. Construction work is in progress, as we can see on the picture on the right. And TOLQ, which is what we are applying now. We have all the clearances already from all the agencies. Okay, fine. We are just waiting for SLA to give us the approval to move in. I think preferably we're trying to move in 1st of August. The TOLQ to house a capacity of 270 pax, and it is near the site, walking distance away. Workers, like what Mr. Goh has said earlier, in the same work zones are segregated, must be segregated. Each team play together within their own team. BCA, earlier on, there were 5 dormitories allowed only for workers more than 100 in our application. But now recently, with a circular on the 21st July, there's no cap to the number of workers, but limit maximum of 10 dormitory addresses. So this is what we are working on again now. And if you see the workers, the table below, the workers' accommodation currently, where are our workers? They are at GSF, Red Hill Close, at our TLQ, and fortunately enough, we have our own FCD at JNW, and our subcontractors have their FCD also cleared. And the table on the right, Red Hill Close, how we segregated the different teams into the different rooms. Safe transportation, like what Mr. Goh said earlier, staggered arrival, departure time of each work zone. Our work zones, we have divided into a few work zones, and the arrival of the work zones are at different locations. So we use bus and lorries for our transportation. Each work zone will have their own separate transport. And transportation of our SP holders is by the company van. And daily records of our transport arrangements are kept for contact tracing purposes. Now, if you look at the transportation plan below, we have different colored teams, workers in a day and night shift. If you can see on the red day shift, 17 workers in a 40-seater bus. A blue day shift, 11 workers also on a 40-seater bus. It's not up to capacity, but we have no choice. We have to segregate them in order to meet the COVID safe measures implemented on site. And the work site itself, how we segregated it, the project site is divided into zones, and each zone is divided into teams again. So you can see zone B, we have D-wall construction, and zone B, we have 2 teams for D-wall construction. One is blue team, one is gray team. Zone C, we have rebar and soil disposal. So 2 different companies, one for rebar, which is Chin Leong, and one for soil disposal, which is KKL. So now we are trying to increase our workforce with sewer coming in, strengthen or increase our workforce for D-wall construction, increase activities for ground improvement as we approach. This is how the work site looks like when we segregated them between the zones and the color teams, and they are all demarcated very clearly and separated on site by barriers so that there's no cross-contamination between teams in each zone. So we have 3 drop-off points down here. Facilities that we provide at each work zone, it should be dedicated rest area, water point, toilets, and containers provided for site staff, supervisory staff who can only stay on respective zone and not allowed to back into the office area. And then we have sick bay and isolated room containers prepared for each different zone, work zone, in case of emergencies. Entry and exit. We have safe entry NRIC system that's at every entrance of the work site. Like I said, we have 3 drop-off zones, so we have 3 NRIC system and safe entry NRIC. And then additionally, we have QR codes to record workers' health before entering the site and before entering the different work zones. So before they enter the work zone, they will have to scan their QR codes so that they are being monitored in which work zone and they are allowed in that work zone. And every zones are provided with sanitizers, insect repellent. And how we identify the teams. Our vests, we have all the different colored teams down here, red, yellow, black, green. This is how we identify the teams on site and the work zone that they work in. So if red is on one zone, they will not cross into another zone. This is how we identify them. And also by the helmets that we identify workers. Transient daily workers means those that are staying outside the work site when they come in. And we differentiate those staying workers in TLQ by all these stripes on site. Staggered working hours, lunch breaks, rest hours, and for the workers in each zone and the different teams involved. And pre-packed delivery of food, ignore this guy, he's the driver. And this, I think everyone should be aware of now, should be very familiar with, even for the workers, the 3 apps, Trace Together, FWM1 Care, and SG Pass. This is for reporting the health status of workers, their address that they update in the MOM Care. And of course, workers have to pass the COVID-safe training course before allowing to enter the site. Temperature screening before they leave their accommodation at GSF and before entering the site. I think this is a practice now for every site. Now the challenges that we face. Now we were given approval for restart on the 27th of May. After consultation with BCA guidance from our client LTA, approval was given on the 15th of June for resumption of work on site when COVID-safe compliance measures were submitted and approved. I believe some of us have this experience before. Workers' access code was still red and not green. Finally, 5 days later, we turned green. All the better, we are all relieved and work got started. Now, some of the contract works that we had to carry out on our own while waiting for the subcontractors' workers to become available, pending their clearing of the dormitories. I think this one we have no choice, but we have to act fast. SMOs and SDOs. I think our SMOs and SDOs are identified with the armband, clearly identifiable, and daily reminders to workers on safe management measures in pre-task talk, just like our toolbox meeting when we talk about safety. All right, we remind the workers on safe distancing, maintain good hygiene, wash hand, temperature reporting, remind them on the MOM care, and of course, to report to immediate supervisor when sick or unwell. This is very important. And we have on site 2 SMOs, number of work zones 8, current workforce is 156, number of SDOs, we have 8 on site. A few initiatives we have contactless safety induction video. What this guy is looking at in front of him is the video. If you scan, you will have COVID safe measures on that video in different languages playing that you can learn from. Remind him what is practiced on site. At the screen on his left, which is down here, this is the safe entry NRIC system that we implemented. Once you scan this work pass, it will be displayed on this screen down here. Inspection, we have PICs assigned to every work zone. We utilize CCTV for supervision and inspection for COVID safe measures, no bunching, no crowding, no safe distancing measures are being observed. This is what we are doing now. Temperature screening, blood oxygen, heart rate monitoring for TLQ workers. This is also quite common in many sites now. Now the challenges ahead. Although we could start, but the process is still very slow. Co Brothers has started physical work at 6 of 7 projects. Productivity has dropped only about 20% of pre-COVID level of productivity. We're trying to adapt and adjust to the new normal. Increased cost and time due to additional COVID measures and the drop in productivity. It's just a long and winding road ahead. It's unprecedented and uncharted waters ahead. We need to work with our clients, stay focused, engage with authorities, BCA and SCAL, to negotiate our way forward to adapt and adjust to the new normal. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully we will get back to pre-COVID levels soon. And it's just a hope. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Goh. Coming up, we have Mr. Anthony Xavier, WSH Officer, Team Build Engineering and Construction, will bring us through project planning strategies for restart and good safe management practices on site, as well as the prefab hub. Mr. Anthony, please.
Thank you, Ms. Ong. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and especially thanks to BCA and SCAL for giving us the honor to actually share on the SMM implementation. I'm Anthony from Team Build, and I will be sharing on the safe management measures at Senja 12-story integrated development. This is the agenda for today's sharing session. Okay, let me start off by introducing the project. It is a design and build of a 12-story integrated development at Woodlands Road. For this project, the main difficulties faced was actually manpower needed to restart, as most of the workers are housed in dormitories that are under isolation or COVID clusters, and Also, unlike some typical work sites where there are CTQs in their premises, this project didn't have this privilege, and this makes it tough for the site to actually restart. Therefore, the project team had to thoroughly plan and identify the contractors and their housing accommodations, and also construct a CTQ within the premises in order to gradually start. The site team had to put in weeks of working and planning very closely with our subcontractors to ensure that proper cohorting is done at their housing locations. From this, we are actually able to identify the critical works required for gradual restart. After the gradual restart planning and identifying the critical workforce required, next is the pre-screen requirements as part of the safe management measures implementation in the site. So let me share a short video of the safe entry process. Please do enjoy the video. Next, all entering the site are compulsory to attend the COVID-safe induction course, where they will be briefed on the in-house rules and regulations. Example, not to share food, not to enter unauthorized areas, worker segregation, and work allocation plan, where they do not cross into other work zones and intermix. Toolbox meeting are allocated, toolbox meeting area are allocated and conducted in smaller groups of 10 persons and capped within 10 minutes. Daily monitoring of workers' temperature are also recorded at 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. respectively. Google Forms are also being implemented in individual CTQ rooms where workers' temperature are also recorded and whether the workers are not feeling well. This information can be retrieved instantly online. Visitors entering the site are also required to do declaration. Details required are company name, purpose of their visit, and whether they have been overseas or come in close contact with any COVID symptom persons. All these records can also be retrieved instantly and monitored daily. As part of the SMM implementation, site teams are also split into two teams, Team A and B, with allocated reporting time, meal time, and leaving work time, and also separated office entrances. To prevent intermixing of our different trades, the trades are allocated with different colored armbands with their company name. Segregation of access, for example, architectural trade using the stairs, structural trade using the PMOIs. For this project, I've also implemented a permit to work on safe management measures where the SDOs from different trades are required to fill up a simple Google form on top of the pre-work allocation planning the day before. So what is this permit to work system, and how is this able to help in the monitoring? Some critical questions in the permit to work that are required to be filled up are location of work, work zone, company name, toolbox list of the workers that are working in that particular location. This makes monitoring easier as it can be retrieved just from your mobile phone. Also, to identify and to ensure that the correct team of workers are working in the correct locations. As our project team planned, our site is separated into 2 zones, A and B, and the zones are being demarcated by green netting. Some physical implementation, there are signages to raise awareness among workers and visitors, including exit entry points, signages to prevent unauthorized entry into CTQ area, safe distance measures to PMOs. How we enforce to ensure that the safe distance measures are promptly adhered? By doing daily inspections by SMO, SDO, using the iSafe, which is an handheld digital device that focuses on SMM, where the SMO, SDO can actually record and even take photos of good practices or even violations observed. Cleanliness of the workplace is also done regularly. For my site, we actually do it 3 times a day. Log sheets are also available. So after cleaning, the allocated cleaner will sign and countersign by the SDO. COVID safe worker leader is being appointed for every rooms. Their role is ensure the 3 apps are being updated, ensure that the workers take their daily temperature, ensure that masks are worn at all times and no intermixing within the quarters. Also to inform SDO of any non-compliance being observed. After monitoring the access code, whether it's green or red, the summary is being recorded daily. Demarcation of the CTQs are implemented to ensure there is no unauthorized entry into the CTQs, and the rooms are also being segregated. Isolation room, sick bays, they are provided and also demarcated. Separation of the toilet facilities for common usage and isolation rooms, dedicated toilets, and hand wash is also provided for all toilet facilities. Scheduled timings for the shower facilities provided for different rooms, provided for different teams staying in the CTQ. These are briefed to the workers during the COVID safe induction and displayed in every rooms. As work begins to start, we also have to plan and implement a delivery schedule and material allocation to prevent any intermixing of the different trades. Drivers entering the site have to go through the process of scanning the safe entry NRIC via Trace Together, taking of temperature and registering in the vehicle logs. All records are properly kept. As this is a PPVC project, let me share on our fit-out yard gradual restart. Planning for the gradual restart in the fit-out yard is just as important as the site, so that production can begin and delivered in a smooth manner without compromising the chances of close contact within the yard. Teams are identified with color armbands, represent the production area where the workers will be demarcated to work to prevent any intermixing. Although fit-out factory is in a controlled environment, but we still pay special attention on the control of movement within the factory itself. We built a TLQ to ensure dedicated accommodation for the fit-out yard, which is also our main workforce. This planning comes hand in hand with our main project to ensure sufficient resources is allocated. Demarcation and dedicated toilet facilities are being enforced by SMO on a daily basis. The latest initiative by TeamBuild, embracing technology to enhance the safe measures compliance. Data and analytical technology is being incorporated into CCTV. Please enjoy the video. Lastly, thank you for your time. And let me end the presentation with a quote from our CEO, Mr. Xiao Seng Hui. If we work together as a team, we will be able to ride through this challenging period and emerge stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Right now, we will move on to the Q&A session. Prior to this webinar, we have collated questions from the audience and the panelists will address to them shortly. You may also raise a question by clicking the raise hand or Q&A button on your screen. Over to you, Engineer Clement and Mr. Hill.
Yeah, we actually have run out of time, but then I thought this part is important, and we will just extend our session a bit longer to at least cover some of your questions we have collated prior to this, and I thought some of those are pertinent questions. So we'll just run through those questions by our respective content reps from BCA first. Basically, there are 4 groups of questions, one on applications, another one on the workforce, safe accommodation, and WORKSITE. Okay, so we just run through a summary of these questions and answers. Okay, Vivian, maybe you just take over. Sorry, I've been told my camera is not.
Okay.
I can't feel my camera.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Okay, Vivian, you just carry on.
Can you hear? Yeah, okay, sure. Can you hear me? All right. No change in the document that you mentioned on segregation plan. This one just needs to be kept on site, so you can revise the segregation.
You'll have to say that again.
The team
You
setup,
got cut off, Vivian. Vivian, you got cut off.
Document. Oh, okay, sorry.
There's a lag, Vivian. So you were coming in, stop and start. You better restart again.
Okay, I changed to data. So can you all hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So regarding this question, right, if there's a revision in the segregation team plan, you just need to keep the revised plan on site. You only need to submit a modification to previous approved application if there's a change in the number of workers, the workforce, or if there's a change in accommodation. So for segregation, zoning, you just need to keep it on site as a record. So when our A&I team goes down for inspection, you just need to show it to them that, oh, we have revised the segregation plan to suit the site activity. Yeah, so that's for this question. Okay, so if there's amendment to project details, as what I mentioned just now, if there's amendment in the manpower, meaning that you either add workers, reduce workers, or if there's a change in accommodation, like where your workers are staying, then you would have to submit in the Form SG. So we have a Form SG that says modification to previous approved application. So you just need to submit that. But one thing that you need to take note is when you submit a modification, please remember to submit all the workers that are still working on this project. I.e., let's say in your application 1, you have 50 workers. In application 2, you want to add 3 workers. So what you do is that you submit the 50 plus 3. So don't miss out that 50. Because what we do is that we will rescind the previous approval and use the latest. So some projects you might end up with, like, if you don't do that, right, you end up with 3 workers. So we advise all builders to remember to submit the workers that they still want in the project, plus the additional one. Yeah. Okay, so for projects under DLP, right, because for projects under DLP, they have already obtained TOP. So they are no longer considered as a construction work site. So for these projects, you just need to submit under construction account works. So there's no work site requirements. It only save ACCOMS and safe workforce requirements will apply. Yeah. Okay, for this, for the new format.
Vivian, we can't hear you. Still
For
can't
this,
hear
right?
you.
Yeah, sorry,
I think
because
you
there's
have
a
to repeat. Yeah.
Okay, for this, right, we always advise builders to download the newest forms, because from time to time we will update our Excel spreadsheets and the PowerPoint slide. So we always advise builders to download the newest format when they submit. Because this is because along the way, right, when we get feedback from builders, we also amend our Excel spreadsheet to help them. So when you're trying to submit, right, always download the latest one before you submit. Otherwise, it will not be compatible with our system. Yeah. For cross deployment, actually, it's the same as modification. So let's say if this worker is working on project 1, now it needs to be working on project 2. So what you need to do is in project 2, you submit under modification to previous approved application. So you just need to make sure that you register worker, the same worker that was previously approved in project 1. After he finished works there, or if he needs to be cross-deployed to project 2, he needs to be registered in both projects. This is to make sure that the worker is captured in both projects and you do not miss out. Because like what just now Mr. Goh has mentioned when he was presenting, he was saying some of the non-compliance found is that there's a mismatch in the worker's data. So very often, if you have cross-deployment, remember that the worker must be registered in both projects. Yeah. I think my colleague will cover for safe workforce questions.
Edna can cover this.
Yeah. Hi everyone, Edna here. So myself and Ming Yao will cover the next set of questions. Okay, so for swab test, Ming Yao, would you like to answer this?
Yes, I will actually add on for this point. So when will this periodic swab test end? Actually, to be frank, this COVID-19 situation is still evolving, and previously one of the presenters did say that our contractor sector is one of the high risk workplace lah. So the relevant government agencies, including MOH and MOM, will actually assess accordingly and actually advise to the public when exactly this periodic swab test will actually end. For the second question, when is this SC Work Pass EP employees will require to do the swab test? Okay, actually our swab test requirement has been shared in our BCA intranet, but just to share generally, okay, for those workers that who need to work and visit construction sites, they need to actually submit their workers' details to the main con. And we will actually arrange the swab, periodic swab arrangement for them. And for those workers who actually are not working at the construction site but deployed under the construction account workers, we will actually swab them for SCPR and the employment pass holder. There's no requirement for them to be swabbed.
Okay, I'll take this question. Okay, so I think most of you are aware already that your workers can check their access code using the SG Work Pass app, and the employers, right, can check the access code of your workers using the Safe at Work e-service. Okay, so the question says that your worker has been cleared or recovered. Why is access code still red? So just to let you know that there's a few factors which determine whether access code will turn green or not. So I'll list, there's quite a long list, but I'll just list the common occurrences that we have experienced so far. So one reason that your worker can have a red access code, right, is that I think Vivian just now mentioned that during the modification, right, the contractor, right, removes, right, previously approved workers, right, from the application list. So when this modified application is approved by BCA, your previously approved workers will be rescinded and the access code will turn red. So just remember to always include your previously approved workers in your modifications as well. Then another reason is that many times, right, the details that you submit to us, the UEN and FIN number of your workers submitted to us, it's not the most updated now. Okay, what I mean by most updated is that whatever you submit to BCA, it must tally with what you submit to MOM under the OFWA system or the EPOL. So this determines whether your worker is a S-Pass or Work Pass holder or E-Pass holder. Depends. So let's make sure that you update MOM database before you submit the details to us, and make sure that both of the details tally. Okay. Other than that, we have a detailed FAQ on our MOM and BCA's website on what factors are behind the access code. You all can look through it, and if there's any more further queries, you all can write into us, and we will try to investigate the individual cases. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so for this regular swab test fees, right, as far as we actually know of, the government will actually fund the cost of the swab test for construction projects until 31st March 2021. So we will actually align with the government policies, and then if should there be any changes, we will actually update in our FAQ accordingly as well.
Okay, I'll answer this question. So the question is, can a head of department in charge of all project sites, can he visit all sites to conduct site inspection? So firstly, right, we recommend that where possible, that please meet off-site, like in your headquarters, or if you really need to inspect sites, if possible, can do it like virtually through like recordings or like live recordings or streamings. But if really needed that you need to visit multiple sites, yes, your head of department is allowed to. They just need to be submitted under each project site's application. So if they've not been submitted so far, you just do a modification to add your head of department in to the individual applications which he needs to visit. Yeah.
Okay, so I think for this question, the person should be asking about their recovered workers. So for now, recovered workers are not subjected to the fortnightly swab test yet. Okay, so we're still aligned with the MOH policy. And as far as we know, not workers who have been recovered are actually able to work. Just that there must be a dedicated transport catered for them to actually bring them from the work site to the ACCOM and from the ACCOM to the work site.
Okay, Sebastian.
Yeah, I'm here. So basically, we have this question asking that if workers going to various places to attend to work, are they okay to use the same lorry? So if, let's say, the workers are staying at the same accommodation, which is same dormitories, and going to the same work site, and they are within the same team, that one is okay. There's no issue with them using the same mode of transport, which is, I think, in this context, is the same lorry. So we also have question asking if, let's say, they are staying within same dormitories, same going to same work site, but they are of different team, can they actually use the same lorry? So as far as possible, we do understand there is some constraint on the transport. So there is strictly no say like they are not able to take the same lorry to the work site in this context, but subjected that the SMM must be in place during the conveyancing. So meaning to say the workers from different teams, they must be segregated properly in the transport, and they are not allowed to interact with each other. Yeah. Okay, so this question, similarly, I think the first question which we have answered of the transportation for different teams. And then the next question, which is the separate subcon stay at the separate room and not on site. So as far as possible, if let's say the subcon are working on part-time for the project, i.e. meaning not more than 6 weeks over the 3-month window, they can actually cohort their workers in accordance to employer's level. So they don't need to cohort with the main contractor on site. However, if let's say the subcon, they are actually required to work full-time on site, then they will actually need to be cohort by project level. The whole idea is to minimize the intermixing of workers from too many different accommodations, thus to reduce the risk of infection. So the other questions, I think, why only S-Pass holder from construction site is not allowed to take public transport. So basically, we did a risk analysis together with MOM. So workers actually working at construction site are assessed to be high risk. So they are actually not allowed. As far as possible, we actually want to prevent the intermixing with the community. Hence, so they are actually not allowed to take public transport. And also from the Q&A, we actually also see a lot of questions asking whether the workers, are they allowed to take public transport on their off day? So actually we have updated our FAQ in BCA website. So the answer is, if let's say, so for this safe transportation criteria, is actually only apply to workers if they are working at construction site. Yeah, so basically it doesn't mention any on the off day, while there is currently no guideline mentioning whether they are allowed to take public transport or not. So this one, applicants, employer, all this may actually have to refer to MOM website for further updates lah. Yeah. So next question is, if we wish to relocate our workers from BD, purpose-built dormitory, to private residential, do we need to obtain MOM/BCA approval? The answer is yes. As long as you are actually shifting your workers out to from one accommodation to another accommodation, you actually need to seek MOM's approval. How to do that is, if let's say there are any requests to shift your worker, applicants, employers may actually send in your request to MOM QOps. So for workers, for this question, they're asking whether workers can take public transport MRT to work. So I think our answer has been included in the FAQ and also our table. So as long as workers are going to going to construction site works, they are not allowed to take public transport. So whether can they walk and cycle to the workplace if they are near their dormitory? The answer is yes. So all this has actually been worded in our FAQ. Yeah.
Okay, back to Vivian. Vivian, you're on. Vivian?
Yes. Okay.
Yep,
So
you're on.
for this, yeah, okay, I'll carry on, sorry. For those that have safe entry, what we are asking is that in addition to safe entry, to have a system, right, where you record all your personnel. So the system that you have, it can be as complicated as having your own visitor management system, or it can be as simple as having an Excel spreadsheet or even a physical logbook. The purpose, the reason being, the safe entry records are not released to the builder. So which is why, in addition to safe entry, we're asking for builders to have their own system to record all personnel that enter and exit site. Yeah. Okay, so for this, right, actually for all works, whether construction sites or renovation sites, and the NRIC safe entry version is required. Maybe just to clarify, right, why we only allow NRIC version and not QR code is because it is not the QR code version, right, is not compatible with the MOM access code. So if you are using the QR code version, when the worker scan, right, you're unable to tell whether the worker has a green access code. So, which is why the NRIC version is the only version that's acceptable at the moment. Yeah. So for this question, can they be used concurrently? Okay, what we advise for builders is to use the NRIC safe entry version at the main exit and entry point. So for like zonings and segregation areas, right, some contractors prefer to use QR code to scan because they find it easier for the worker. So when you're inside the site, right, and you still want your worker to use a QR code within that area, you can use a QR code version. But for main entry and exit point, you have to use the safe entry NRIC. Yeah. That's just to assess that the worker is safe to enter. So the worker has a green access code. Internally, you can use others. Yeah. Okay, for this, right, for not so tech savvy, okay, for this one, right, it's a bit different from shopping centers. Shopping centers, if let's say like the auntie uncle go there, they can just jot down in a physical book, right? But unfortunately for this one, the only system that is acceptable has to be the NRIC safe entry. The reason being what I mentioned earlier already, because only this version you can is integratable with the MOM access code. So once you scan, you know that whether the worker is healthy, meaning that it has a green access code to enter. So in this case, a physical one will not work. Yeah. So for suppliers, okay, so for all these, right, these are like the transient, what we call transient workers or visitors. So for those, right, they can actually register. So if they are not known to you at the point of application, they can be taken as visitors. But similarly, they will need to scan this safe entry NRIC. So for this kind of suppliers, generally they will be registered under construction account works under firm level. So if they have gone for swabbing, they will be in the MOM access code system. So that one is okay. Once they scan, you will know whether are they safe to enter. Yeah. This one I understand from our A&I team that it can be done because currently now, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Clement. For this, I understand that for approved applications, the audit checklist is now given to contractors. So moving forward, we will try to publish this probably in the FAQ, the audit checklist to all, so that it's known to all. So this can be done. To streamline, this one is a question that we probably will need to bring back to GovTech because right now when the builder register for safe entry, the branch codes are given by the GovTech side. So this one we will need to take this feedback back. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all for this.
Okay. I thought maybe we can just take about 2 questions or so. Anyone?
Okay, cool, Chair. So the first one in line is Mr. Ryan. Okay, Ryan, could you unmute yourself? We have use the right to unmute. Mr. Ryan, are you there? If not, maybe we move on to the next one. Miss Cindy Lee.
Yes, hi. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to ask, it has been announced that the dormitory will all be cleared by mid-August. So I would like to clarify, when you say the dormitories are cleared, does it mean that the original dormitories that the workers are staying, or because some of the workers currently are staying at the government facilities? So will all these workers be moved back to their original dormitories, or they will continue to stay at the current temporary dormitories?
Okay, my understanding is that they will move back to the cleared dorms, but can Anna elaborate on this? Or Sebastian?
Hi, Sebastian here. Yeah, our understanding is that MOM gradually would actually, or the JTF will gradually actually arrange the workers back to the cleared dorm. So if let's say at this point of time, if let's say employers actually wish to actually shift their workers back to the dormitory, they can also actually request if they are transferring the workers back to the cleared dormitories. Yeah.
Okay, our concern is because currently our original dormitories are not cleared yet. So our workers who used to be staying at one dormitory are currently being dispersed over like 5-6 dormitories. And the 5-6 dormitories can be one at Jurong, one at Tuas, one at Tampines kind of thing. So it's like very difficult to pick up workers at different locations every day. So if they are not being moved back to the original dormitory, can we request to consolidate them at least in one dormitory rather than we having to go to so many different dormitories every day?
Okay, for this, right, your request will be valid if, let's say, you actually have a clean accommodation that you actually can house all these workers. If you have this, if the conditions are met, I don't see any issue, and I don't think there's any issue if you surface this request to MOM or JTF. I think the concern is only if you are shifting the workers back to the uncleared dorms. That would be the issue, lah. Yeah.
No, we don't have our own dormitories to house them, but I'm asking whether is it possible those that are staying at the government facilities to be housed together in one of the government facilities rather than we have to travel all over Singapore just to consolidate them every day.
I think this question is a question for MOM. I don't have the answer for you straight away. I think we can get back to you on this one.
Okay, so would there be a person I can follow up with?
Yeah, I can follow up with my colleague Sebastian. Sebastian, is there
yeah. Can write to me, and then after I will follow up with the relevant colleagues that can assist in this.
Can I request for questions relating to practices? I thought it's important as some of you have are preparing to start work. You see those good practices from our two friends who shared earlier on. Is it something that is practicable to you? What do you have other clarifications that you need on those aspects? Because this is important. It will help in containing any future C+ cases if it does happen. Can I take the next question?
Okay, next in line is Liu Shu Dong.
Yes.
Could you unmute yourself? Yeah. Liu Shu Dong. If not, we'll move on to Mr. Darren Talk. Could you unmute yourself? We have given you the access to do so. Yeah, Mr. Darren, we have. Yeah.
Okay. Right. I have a question. Apparently, I have submitted the application for restart for construction works. However, I have a rejection from a BCA because I do not have the subcons full details. So what does it mean?
Vivian?
Okay, so if you get this as a rejection, most likely you have not filled in the UEN. I'm not sure about the exact details, but there's probably something that's missing. It's either the UEN or the workers' details, their PIN number, because we need all these details before they can be registered in our system. Like just now we were talking about the whole registry of the access codes and also for the swabbing or this. So we need all these workers' details before they can be arranged for that. So likely is that there is some info that's missing there. Maybe for specific one, you can approach us, then we can look at it.
Clement, maybe can I suggest we ask one of the speakers to explain, because I'm sure, because I've seen the forms for the restart application, and there are a lot of basically boxes to fill in. So maybe one of the two speakers can say that basically what to look out for and what not to leave blank, because for sure, if anything is left or incorrect, then you will have queries like this. Maybe we can get some sharing from the two speakers on the form application.
Yeah, why not?
Thank you so much. Let me just interrupt for a while. It's because I take it seriously because I have an argument between my subcon and myself. I'm a main con for this project. So what happened is that my subcon says that the main con have to submit the application for restart on the behalf and to get the restart. But I have fulfilled all the requirements as outlined by the so-called the BCA applications for submission. That is the so-called the worker's name, FIN number, address, postal code, and mobile. I have done due diligently, but I still have a rejection from that. And the second question is that is the main con supposed to submit on behalf of subcon, or subcon have to submit by themselves?
Okay, it's quite clear that subcon needs, main con needs to submit for the subcon for projects restart.
Okay.
I think that the specific to your case, I think we can take it offline. But can I just pass the time over to one of our speakers to share a bit on the application?
Thank you, Clement.
Gopo Kim here. I think like what Vivian said just now, is most of the time it's careless mistakes that we make when we do the submission. Either we fill in wrongly UEN or we fill in the wrong FIN number, because it's one whole spreadsheet that you must remember that we have to fill. And when you work through the night, the numbers one might look like 9, 9 might look like 1. So these are the things that common mistakes that we make along the way. But then again, the reply from BCA is, from MOM is always, there's list specific people that we made mistakes in. They don't reject the whole thing.
Correct.
Agree. Okay.
Can I also offer a suggestion? Most of the time we find that when there is a rejection of a particular workers from the subcons, you will find that one of the main attribute is actually the accommodation. Now, the subcontractor may have put in the accommodation of the workers. Maybe he's been taken out or in some recovery facilities. But basically, with the MOM record, he still actually has the old address. So finally, this responsibility falls with the subcon, where they have to update as an employer on the actual address of their workers. So if they give you one address A and what is on record when they give as employer to MOM is B, then when these two don't tally, these workers will be rejected. So aside from the typo errors that Mr. Goh has mentioned, this is actually very normal. We've had this also. I'm a main con also. And you will find that sometimes the project application reference number, they forgot to put the dash or they forgot to put these. So they said everything must be precisely accurate. The FIN number, the NRIC, right? So it doesn't not supposed to be a gap. You don't put a gap and things like that. But one of the common ones is actually the accommodation. So you need to check with the subcon, the employer, what address they actually gave in the system and what they give to you. This is basically just to help you if you're trying to troubleshoot what is the problem.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Desmond. I'm pretty aware that whatever that are reflected on the OFAW should be coincide with the application that we submitted. So moving forward, I would to check with my subcon what kind of entry that they have made through the MOM OFAW in order for us to resubmit. Is that what you say?
Sorry, you need to rephrase that one. A little bit difficult for us to understand. What exactly you're asking?
Okay. Now the address of the workers should be tally with the MOM OFAW, right?
Yes, the off was correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So in other words, if the subcon were to deviate or to mistakenly enter a digit which are not coincide with the OFAW, and the main con submitted, the whole application will get rejection. Am I right?
No, I think BCA has said that only that particular worker will be rejected. Correct, Clement? It's not that the whole application is rejected. Only that particular worker will not be allowed to enter the site until the matter is resolved.
Yeah.
Correct, Vivian?
All right.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you,
that's right.
Desmond. Thank you, Vivian. Right.
Okay, I think that's all the time we have. I'm afraid. We will get back to everyone on the questions that have been posed to us, and then we will disseminate that. I thought before we leave, just some closing words lah. Yeah, if you cannot remember anything about this seminar, there are a few points that you should just bear in mind. I know there's a whole lot of rules for project to restart, but actually in principle wise, there are only a few. First, your workers must be healthy, right? Secondly, all the practices that we talk about is all about segregation, cohorting. Basically, it means no mixing of workers from different teams, different projects, and different accommodation. Okay. Please pay attention to those high-touch areas, common facilities. Even as you stagger your timing, use the toilet stagger timing, right? You must allow enough time between the timings. First, for the workers to go in and out, have some spare buffer time to clean the facility before the next team use the facility. This is a common thing which I found a bit lacking sometimes because of we plan based on ideal scenario, okay? But in actual fact, life is not so perfect one. The last point that I thought everyone should bear in mind is C+ case is going to be a question of when it happens. It's not if it happens, okay? So you need to have traceability. So remember traceability. Everything you do on site is to trace the activities carried out by your workers or by your staff on site. Why? Because if when C+ happen, what is going to happen is that MOH, MOM will come in to trace who are the close contact. If it's not traceable, what is going to happen is that your site face the potential of shutting down entire site, which is going to be very, very big impact on your project, your schedule and whatnot. So the idea is to be able to trace so that you can zoom down to, oh, okay, only one small group of workers are affected, one small zone of the site is affected, and you only need to shut down a small localized area of the site, as opposed to an entire site if it's not traceable, okay? So just bear in mind the importance of all these measures is for these few purposes, okay? So I'll just leave you with that. I want to thank SCAL also for taking part in this, and our fellow speakers for sharing. And Desmond, maybe you want to have some last words?
Okay, I put it this way. I think as a contractor and also from SCAL, I think it is tough, as what Mr. Goh has mentioned, one of the speakers. It's a new normal out there. And maybe one take-home point I can request from BCA is that the forms for application, especially the Excel, is quite tedious to fill up. So if you can relook into simplifying it or even making it easier, because okay, bigger contractors may have the resources to actually help prepare the application forms, especially the Excel spreadsheets. But if you are actually a smaller contractor, it is very challenging for them, especially since they have to liaise with many subcons, maybe even suppliers and things like that. So I think on the scale of it, if we can improve the system it will make the operation far easier to manage for all. Okay, and then people then concentrate rather than on the paper itself, but actually in maintaining a good SMM or at the work site, so that basically infections are negligible or even minimized. I think that's the take-home message I want to send to all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, webinar chairpersons, panelists, and speakers for the valuable insights about the good practices and common pitfalls of COVID-safe measures for construction projects. It has been an engaging and fruitful session. Before we end, we are pleased to share that BCA will be sharing and launching this resource kits for the industry to guide project teams and companies on how to ensure smooth and safe resumption of construction activities. The resource guides are available in both English and Chinese. These guides could be accessed through the links posted in our Telegram channel. Do subscribe to our channel for the latest updates on construction restart. We've come to the end of this session. After exiting this webinar, you will be directed to access an evaluation form for today's session. Once submitted, you will be able to download the speaker's presentation materials via the website as shown. On this note, we thank you for your participation and making this webinar a success. We wish you and your project team a safe and smooth restart. Signing off, this is Wei Wen from BCA.